Maguna. Oh, I love you!
Kayo Saka! It's Rice again!
I'm trying to switch to Athletic Club, but it is a little tricky, but we'll get there. But yeah, we're gonna talk about kind of ending the preseason on a high note, kind of look ahead maybe a little bit to the season. We're going to do the first annual Take Purge, and with me to do that today is the one, the only James, who you can follow on Twitter at AFC James. James, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you. As I told you before, I've just run home with a full belly of Nando's, which was quite an experience. But I'm in good spirits today, and very excited to do the first Takes Purge of the season, because this is not something I have done before, and it's something that I feel is quite refreshing, just to get those takes off your chest and put them out into the stratosphere.
Yeah, we're just doing what's happening on the Twitter timeline right now, except, we're making it very clear these are not actually things we 100%.
I cannot do that on the Twitter timeline. I would get killed.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, so you said you're in good spirits. So you're not freaking out about the transfer stuff swirling around today with
No, I'm not. I don't know. I always like to say I'll judge it at the end of the window, because you know how it is. People lose their heads, and then there was a period in the window where people were going crazy that we hadn't signed a striker, and then within a week we signed Gyokeres, Mosquera and Madueke. So you don't know what's going to happen in a short space of time. We have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. But I am nervous. I don't get nervous, but I'm starting to get a little bit shaky.
Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, I try to do the same thing, right? And it's summer, right? So you've got more stuff to do, you've got family to be with, and grass to touch. So I try not to freak out that much. But yeah, I mean, there is a world in which this is it for us this summer, and Liverpool get Isak and two center backs and maybe like a midfielder or something. They take their total spend to 600 million on the summer, and City do stuff.
Right now, if I stop you and interrupt you right now, do you think this is it for the window?
As of this moment, no. I think we've got one more in us, and I just think we're doing that classic Arsenal thing where Josh Kroenke got on the horn with the sporting director and said, "Okay, let's bring a little money in before we get the next guy." And so we'll see if we hold fast to that, or if Eza is on the cusp of joining Spurs, maybe we kind of jump in at the last second and do something about that, or go get someone else. So
I think also with some of our player sales, we're in a bit of a unique position compared to previous seasons, where some of these guys we could sell quite quickly. Like Zinchenko, I believe we could sell very quickly. Reece Nelson, it feels like. Vieira, it feels like. These guys all seem to, and Kivior as well. A lot of these guys have had offers. We're just not happy with the offers. So if we turned around and really needed to turn the screw on Eze, then we whisper in, who was it that was going for Kivior?
I think it was Porto.
Yeah, then we whisper in Porto's ear saying, guys, bid 2 million more and we'll sell him. Go to Stuttgart for Vieira, 2 million and we'll give him you. I do think there are a lot of players that we can flip, whereas in previous seasons we've had no interest. So the fact that the interest is there is good, and it seems like right now we're playing the field and don't want to be lowballed because we've been burnt or we've been taken advantage of in the past. But I feel like if the window is coming to a close and no more interest seems to be cropping up, then we'll say, right, Porto, we'll work with you, we'll work with these guys, and we can wrap some of these up. The problem is, what opportunities will be shut by then? Will Rodrigo be shut? Will Eze be shut? I guess that's the job of the sporting director, Berta, to decide and kind of play his cards right and not be left short-handed. But fortunately also, unlike previous seasons where Nico Williams was the sole target, it seems like we have options on this occasion, which is a nice position to be in, and options, in Eze's case especially, who really do want us. So unless we make it explicitly clear to Eze that we're not coming for him, I think he will be patient, or as patient as we can be.
Yeah, it's tough with selling, right? Because this is somewhat related to one of my takes, so I don't want to go too far into this, but I just think something that a lot of people are not factoring into their thinking is we're not selling bells of the ball, right? You know, we have players who every team in the world would be interested in, but I think it's very clear that we're not willing to let go of any of them at this time. The guys that we're selling are very much fringe players. And with fringe players, you know, sure, there's going to be people who are interested because they're still good players, but they'll have options too, and they're willing to run the clock out a little bit, and they know we have to sell. So they just have a little bit more of the leverage, whereas, you know, like if you take Liverpool, for example, and I hate talking about Liverpool as much as I do, but if you take Liverpool, for example, you know, a lot of teams were in for Nunez. You know, a lot of teams wanted Luis Diaz. Harvey Elliott's still attracting attention. You know, they have players who are just kind of a couple tiers above who have more value. And
do you know
so,
what?
yeah.
And this is a thing that people struggle to understand, and I understand why. But Arsenal fans overrate our players massively in this regard, and this will happen the same to Manchester United in a few years if they do become good again. That those guys, when we were 8th, the Smith Rowes of this world, Smith Rowe is as good as Harvey Elliott, maybe not even as good. But Smith Rowe, to us, Arsenal fans couldn't let go, and he was a key piece. Because Liverpool had been on the top for so long that every season when they're signing players, these guys who were near the top are now getting squashed down. Whereas we're doing it where we're still adding to the top, but the guys who are getting squashed down are guys who were decent when we were in 8th place. And when I say decent within 8th place, with all due respect to Smith Rowe, he was on a crazy hot streak. He was scoring most of the shots he was taking. He, in another world, could have really done not that much for us as an average team. We were not good that season. And Arsenal fans will say he's the second coming of X, Y, and Z. And in reality, he's not. A lot of these fringe players are still nowhere near. We're now getting to the stage where your Fabio Vieiras and your Kiviors are worth something, but that's still like gold dust to us. We don't have many of them, whereas Liverpool have the luxury of having quite a lot of these players. If they want to sign Ekitike, they can sell a Nunez. Right now, if we want to sell a left winger, we're still selling a Trossard. Trossard is nowhere near the commodity that a Nunez is. And Chelsea kind of fast-tracked that whole situation by just buying players on top of each other. So they signed a top 4 player, signed another top 4 player, and then you've got a top 4 player available for sale in Madueke, for example. But our guys, a lot of the guys that are available are 8th place starters at best. A lot of these guys weren't even starters when we're 8th place. So we've got to temper our expectations. And a lot of these guys are on unrealistic wages for clubs. Like Zinchenko, brilliant footballer. He seems to have fallen off a cliff a little bit. And football's changed a little bit since he thrived. So who's paying 150k a week for him? I don't know. So I waffled on a little bit, but that's kind of my first take, is that a lot of our fringe players, I think, are still overrated. And that is why Arteta has struggled so much rotating in the past few years, because these guys are just not as good as Arsenal fans think.
Yeah. Oh, you meant like your first take for the Take Purge?
No, it wasn't. But it kind of bleeds into a new take. So it's not one of my first 3, don't worry.
Okay. Well, so before we get into that, just real quick, what did you make of the 3-0 against Athletic Club? Right, I thought we looked really good, but I kind of want to get your thoughts there.
So it's funny actually, because I was debriefing this with FK earlier. People may not know, but I had dinner with him today. Very random, impromptu thing. But I was worried before the Bilbao game, and the Bilbao game dispelled a lot of those worries. And one of one of my excuses I was telling myself after the Villarreal game was that maybe one of the reasons we're pressing poorly, we're doing this poorly, is because the load that these guys are experiencing in training is meaning they're coming into the game already quite tired. Now, if I said that on social media, said, guys, these guys are training hard before Villarreal, you can't be so harsh on them, we both know I'd have been absolutely slaughtered and killed. So I kept that to myself.
Would have gotten to you.
So I kept that to myself. But the way we looked versus Bilbao did to me feel like these guys had had a proper rest before that game, because even players like Rice, they were just running differently. Yeah. Aside from all of the actions being cleaner, the tactics being sharper, we were just running to where we needed to be. And sometimes football is a simple game that if you are able to cover the distance and if you win the physical battles, which we did, then everything else falls into place, and that's what seemed to happen. So it's a lot more than that, because Villarreal played a low block and Athletic Club, not Bilbao, played more expansively, which gave us more of a chance to counter on them, which allowed us to show what we've been working on. So the low block still concerns me, and United will play that on the first game of the season. But I do think it dispelled a lot of the myths where people were dooming and saying Arsenal are going to finish fourth. Look, if that Arsenal that turned up against Bilbao turn up for the whole season and we can keep the team fit, we will be up there by the end of the season.
Yeah. I think another thing from the Villarreal match that should be taken into account is the starting midfield, right?
Massively.
Because Villarreal, it was Norgard and Wineri and why am I forgetting who the third in midfield was?
Marino?
Yeah, Marino. Yeah, Norgard, Wineri, and Marino. It's not a bad midfield, but you could tell that Norgard's not as elite a passer as Zubimendi is, and Marino in the final third, I think he's great. In the other thirds, yeah. I think he is. Yeah. He just I think Clive on the Arsenal Vision podcast put it best, where he says he's just always like a yard behind the play.
Yep. And because of that, he's constantly fouling, which is so frustrating.
He's a really useful player, like when you're trying to run the clock out. But and that's the thing, right? That wasn't a midfield that is meant to kind of get you on the front foot and get you into the lead and play through a low block. So, going into the Athletic Club game, like, sure, they were playing more expansively, they're trying to take the game to us, but at the same time, we had a midfield that was able to cut them open a little bit.
Yes, and our midfield was a significant problem against Villarreal, actually, because in the big high press that we were doing, the reason why they were cutting through us like butter is because that midfield was just haphazard. We just kind of put it together. Yeah. And that midfield, unless something absurd happens, will not be starting a Premier League game next season. Maybe one of them will. Maybe Marino will at one time. Maybe Nwaneri will at one time. Maybe Norgard will at one time. Yeah. But having just one of them will, no doubt, it will drop the level. Especially, I believe, if Zubimendi is out. He's one of our most key points of failure with the way he progresses the ball. But aside from that, I do think there are pieces that can move. If you throw out the whole jigsaw, then that's where we're going to have problems. And I still think we will be absolutely fine for the majority of games. But if we play specifically counter-attacking teams for now, and also the big sides with that midfield, I don't think it's ready for that. Nor should we have to watch games where that midfield comes up against those type of teams. Yeah. Hopefully, we've kind of cashed in our bad karma last season, injury-wise. And this time around, we don't lose all three of our starting midfielders at the same time. That would be nice. I hope so.
One more thing. I knew that we were signing a really great midfielder when we got Zubimendi, but I just think this preseason has kind of shown that maybe he's a tier above what we thought he would be this season. And
he's good.
Yeah, and he reeks of I'm going to drag this team through some very difficult moments this season. You know, I get like big like Fabregas and Van Persie vibes off him. Not in terms of like, you know, the end of his Arsenal time or anything, but just those are talents that we could play terribly and they would come up with the moment to get us over the line, or they would grab the game by the scruff of the neck. And I think Zubimendi is that level of player as well.
I think it's shocking that it's taken us this long to get a true six, considering I've said this for a long time, and this is why when people say things like Lewis Skelly should play in that number six position, number six in Arsenal's system and in any juego de position 4-3-3 possession-based style system is the hardest position to play in world football. You have to be able to play 360. You have to have the intelligence to be able to decide when to play the incisive, forceful passes and when to play the calm sideways passes. And you have to have the execution to be able to do that. And until now, we haven't had that player under Arteta at all. We've had Jorginho, but it's shocking actually, because we've seen at times when Jorginho paired Rice just how good we were. But that was never sustainable because Jorginho literally didn't have legs and was towing a caravan at the best of times. Now we have Jorginho with more legs, and it looks incredible. And you can see that he's just had that Spanish education. He knows when to make the incisive passes, and he takes such care with them as well. Something we've had before with Partey. He would sometimes make those progressive passes, and people loved it at the start. But a lot of people didn't consider the fact that he'd make the pass, but only with the idea of this player needs the ball, not with the idea of this player needs to receive the ball on the back foot so he can take it past the next man. This player needs to receive the ball at this moment, because if you miss the moment, then it's gone. There's no point passing to him then. And Zubimendi, you can see, has that education of knowing when that moment is. So it's so interesting because a lot of people statistically didn't rate him. They said this guy's average, he can't do this. If you watched him, and I watched him against Man United in the Europa League in the stadium, I thought he was so intelligent. He was always ahead of knowing what to do. And we've seen that already, and I'm very, very excited to see what he has for us.
Yeah, and, you know, I think just also the pass selection that he has, I think just because like going back to Partey, right? I think Partey had his moments at 6, but there were just times where he would try passes and they just were not on, but he'd try to punch the ball through anyway. Whereas, and I think a lot of that was down to the fact that Partey would get the ball and he'd take a couple extra touches and slow the game down sometimes. Zubimendi, it's 1 touch, 2 touch, out. And if he doesn't have, you know, the pass on that he wants,
he moves it.
He moves it, right? He'll carry it a little bit. He can get past 1 or 2 players. And what a lot of fans misunderstand is that sideways pass is not by any means a wasted pass. That sideways pass changes the picture, so when the player brings it back to him, he can receive the ball and the picture's changed and a gap opens up. Yeah. So I think what we'll probably see this season is a lot of casual fans, I mean that in no way a critique, but they'll say, why is he passing sideways? Why is he passing sideways? Speed the game up. Whereas Zubimendi has the education to know actually sometimes the sideways pass is important, especially the lower the block gets, the more valuable a sideways pass becomes because there's less space in behind. So you have to keep moving the picture. And last season we had a big problem where the gap would get squashed, and then the only person who had any idea to know what to do with it was Ødegaard. And a lot of the time he resorted to just those floated crosses. Whereas Zubimendi will be another option to say, whoa, if it's not on, give it back to me and I'll give it to the person who's most valuable, because he can see the whole picture. So he'll say, all right, we can overload the right-hand side, give it to Saka. If Saka looks from right wing and there's 2 men in front of him, give it back to Zubimendi. We'll keep rotating until the gaps open up. So I'm talking a lot today. I'm just, especially with great. Zubimendi. He is currently, I would say, my favourite. I don't want to jump the gun here, but my favourite players growing up were Fabregas and Wilshere, and I played as a number 6/8 myself. So
he is looking very quickly to be my favourite Arsenal player.
Yeah, I just think he's such a classy player, and like some players just ooze class when they're on the ball, and Zubimendi is one of those guys. And I think, kind of piggybacking on what you were saying there, I think there's going to be a lot of situations where he does pass the ball sideways, right? And it might just be a little give and go between Rice and Zubimendi for a couple seconds, right? And it seems to slow down the game. But it's just about moving the block, right? So, it's very likely that Zubimendi could pass it to Rice or pass it to Bluesky or Calafiore, whoever's on the left, gets it back, switches over to the right immediately, and all of a sudden you've got a guy who's free down the flank.
Ask yourself what Partey would have done in that situation, and the answer is he would have forced a pass, and 1 in 10 times it would have come off, but the other 10 times the opponent regains the ball, and specifically when you are chasing a game, losing the ball wastes so much time.
Yeah.
Because you've got to regain the ball, and teams will go up the pitch, teams will get the ball in your corner. Nowadays, teams in the Premier League press very well and then retreat into their block. By the time you get to see that block again, 5 minutes could have passed.
Yeah.
So, especially when the clock's ticking, it requires a very intelligent player to ignore the fans going shoot and ignore your kind of natural instinct of drilling the ball between the lines in hope that you'll do something and saying, move the picture, eventually the gap will come. And as you say, Zubimendi is invaluable for that. And occasionally he will whip a delicious cross first time that Gyokeres, that goal. And I tweeted myself actually when Gyokeres came that I actually didn't say anything bad about his heading because I don't have access to match clips, so I couldn't say he's bad at heading. I never saw. But I said he'd scored, I think it was 5 of his last 97 goals, which were his goals for Sporting, were headers, which is not a huge proportion. Yeah. And my assumption was that maybe he's not an especially good headerer, because they did cross the ball quite a bit, and he did get his head on the end of quite a lot of crosses. They just didn't go in. His success rate was low. Hey, look, from what we saw against Bilbao, 2, not just the first one, that second header would have been outrageous. Yeah. I'm impressed. That's a guy who, Alex Moneypenny says it a lot, he would kill his grandma for a goal. And I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, it's funny because I was raging against when we were playing Villarreal, because we were just spamming crosses into the box, and I was like, Gyokeres is in the box. What are you doing? Like, put it on the ground. And then fast forward to Athletic Club, and he's unlucky to have 2-headed goals. It just shows that, players are really kind of a reflection of their situations a lot of the time. I was really impressed by that, and also it was nice to see Havertz score the Gyokeres goal. Maybe they did a Freaky Friday before the match or something, but yeah. Did you see
because someone put a compilation of Havertz like running power, and what I did notice is there in the past Havertz has had moments, and he has always had running power, but what I felt with this specifically was a different kind of running power. It was the running power, but it was the strength behind the run as well, where he rode the contact after and then still had the strength in his legs to finish the shot. Yeah. What we've seen in the past is that he was able to make the run by that, but A, because he'd been running for 90 minutes, he was knackered, and B, by the time he's getting the shot off, there was contact on his back, and because he wasn't strong enough, he couldn't ride the contact and ended up skewing the shot. But I can't remember what people have been calling him. Havertz, like stocky verts. I'm sure someone gave him quite a funny nickname, Swolverts or something, Chadverts, something like that. But Chadverts is different. Yeah. I like it, and it will be good competition. It will be really good competition because last season he didn't have any.
Yeah, and I think also there are 2 players that can complement each other a lot. They can play on the pitch together, and it was really nice to see that, in the event one of them might have to miss a game or 2, we're not suddenly limited to the ways that we can score goals, right?
Yeah. Because Gyokeres can score headers and Havertz can score sprint through from 40 yards out.
Ride the contact and not scuff the shot. Yeah, no, it was really encouraging, and I think I feel a lot better about the team heading into the Old Trafford match, despite maybe the lack of transfer movement like as of today. But we'll see where that goes. So with the Bilbao match over, we're heading into the new 25-26 season, and I thought it would be a really fun time to kind of just spout a couple takes, 3 from each of us, and these are, for people who are not familiar with this concept, basically what we're doing here is we're saying things that every once in a while it's a nagging thought in the back of our head that we kind of, maybe we believe it, maybe we don't, maybe it's just an emotional take. So these aren't things that we are going to die on a hill for, but they are just kind of the wildest takes that pop into our head from time to time. So we're going to take turns spouting them off, and then, we'll try poke holes in them or see if maybe actually that's something that's fairly reasonable or something that we agree with.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll see. So
I look forward to this.
with that, we get into the first annual Take Purge.
Dun, dun, dun.
Soon as Here we go.
Warning, this is not a test. This is the Not That Kind of Gooner emergency announcement system, declaring the commencement of the annual Take Purge. For approximately 1 hour following this announcement, all Not That Kind of Gooner personnel and authorized guests shall be undeserving of any ridicule, shaming, disparagement, trolling, loss of credibility, or any other form of accountability related to or stemming from any opinion voiced during this time. Not That Kind of Gooner thanks you for your participation. May Mikel Arteta's hand-holding, anthropomorphic brain and heart be with you all.
The production quality on this show is something else. This is incredible.
My wife gave me a weird look when I asked her to voice that, but she ended up doing it. So
Amazing. Okay,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even I don't know why. I just assumed it would have been AI. So shout out to your wife for that.
I thought about it, but I remember back with This Week in Arsenal, where we had the little AI intro, and after about a month, I was just really sick of it. And yeah.
Wow, this is incredible. Well done.
Thank you. All right, do you want to start, or do you want me to do the honors?
I'll start.
Okay.
I'll start. I do think though maybe my third take might need changing because I don't think it's quite exciting enough. But my first take, I think is good enough to start off with. So I'm gonna say that right now, I think Gabriel is a better player and footballer than Saliba. I don't know if this is controversial, and I'm not talking about potential, of course. But I think pound for pound, just as a player, I think Gabriel is better than Saliba, which for me, this might be even more controversial, puts him as the second best defender in the world right now.
Behind Van Dijk?
Yes.
What
I don't watch enough leagues outside Arsenal to say I'm Bastoni, but I think Gabriel's better than Bastoni, to be honest.
No, I'd agree with that take. So what makes you say that Gabriel's better than Saliba all around?
I think Gabriel is more important in maintaining the high line. I think so. I think he's more of a leader in that defence. I think in one-on-one defensive situations, he is stronger. I think he is better aerially and in the duel. I think he chips in with important goals, which obviously isn't necessary as a defender, but it all adds to the picture. And I just think, I suppose his passing, I'd say their passing is quite similar. Yeah. But based on the things I've already said, it doesn't sound like a great deal, but I do think, I guess what Saliba does have is definitely pace over Gabriel. But the way Gabriel carries himself, I think he's an incredible defender. And last season, I want to say he barely put a foot wrong all season. I do not remember him making a single mistake. And he was so valuable to us. So when he was lost, I don't think people realise the gravity of that, considering people still see him as our second best defender.
That's really tough, actually, because part of me, I find myself kind of agreeing with that at this point in time, because like the way I'd put it is last season, I think Saliba was harder to replace, or sorry, I think Gabriel was harder to replace in the lineup than Saliba, if one of them went down to injury, right? And I think that's kind of the case this season, because if Saliba misses some time, you have White who can play there, you have Timber who can play there, Mosquera has now emerged as an interesting option there, and I think all of those guys, while they're not as good as Saliba, kind of at all the qualities they brings to the table, they can come in and do a good enough job where things aren't, the bottom isn't going to fall out. Whereas with Gabriel, yes, Kivior filled in for him very well last season. And yes, we have Calafiori now, but I just think Gabriel brings that top-level aggression in his defending. And I
watch some of the goals we concede. Sorry to interrupt. Watch some of the goals we concede when Gabriel is not in the team. That Kivior, and it was specifically Kivior that I thought defended it horribly. But the whole defense just never looks right when he's not in the gaps are in the wrong places. The spaces are. It's not just what he does when the ball is near him. I just think he is so important to that defence in ensuring there is stability. Now, there are situations like in Mbappe 1v1s that I'd rather Saliba, but I just think in general, I think Gabriel offers more as a footballer. Sorry, I'll let you continue.
I'll put it to you like this: when Newcastle played us last, or when Newcastle beat us those 2 times or 3 times last season, they were putting Isak on Saliba and not on Gabriel, and I think that says a lot, right? And this isn't too. I think for me, Gabriel and Saliba, like those are second and third in the Premier League, right?
Yep.
You can pick the order, but I'm not saying that Saliba's shit or anything, but I just think Saliba does lack that bit of aggression, that bit of aerial prowess that makes Gabriel such a hard defender to play against.
When Gabriel was Saliba's age, by the way, he was nowhere near the player he is today, and he was nowhere near Saliba's level. So I believe that by the time, because Saliba's still very young, and he's 24 now, is he?
I think so, yeah.
Let's have a look quickly. I've accidentally put saliva age. He's 20. He's turned 24 5 months ago, so he's closer to 24 than he's 25, which is younger than me, which is a weird thought. But he's 24 is no age as a defender. Van Dijk's 34. If we get another 10 years out of Saliba, that would be incredible. So it's no slight on Saliba. I think with defensive experience means so much. And Gabriel has that experience and does a lot of things, like the way off the ball, these little shoulders. Like, either way, as you said, second and third in the league, second and third in the world for me. And not many centre-back partnerships Haaland comes up against and says, I don't know what to do because both of these guys are eating me alive. So we are blessed to have them both. But my hot take is that Gabriel is currently better of the two.
I think that's actually that's a hot take I might be on board with. But yeah, either way, as we're watching the rest of the Big Six kind of stock up offensively, very glad to have both of them on the team. That was a good one. Okay, my first one is I still kind of wish we'd signed Hugo Ekitike over Viktor Gyokeres, because
I was thinking this when I watched him.
Well, just because, like, look, as much as I think that we need to play more directly, and as happy as I am to see us playing more directly, and that's kind of a direct response to signing Gyokeres, I just feel that Ekitike's all-around game is a better fit for us. And I just remember, watching especially Liverpool against Palace in the Community Shield. He would drop into midfield a little bit, and he would kind of, play off of his teammates, and he'd also kind of run that left channel, and it was a pretty good finish for his goal. But also he has the pace to get in behind. He has the height. I think he's like 6'2", 6'3".
6'3".
Really tall guy. But also like more of a creative player than Gyokeres is. And that's not to say Gyokeres doesn't create chances or anything, but I just think, Ekitike just has a better all-around game and kind of reminds me more of... I think in a few years he'll be a more complete striker than Gyokeres is right now. And I'm just...
Agree.
Yeah.
I do have some rebuttals, though.
Okay.
Financially, Gyokeres was probably 2/3 of what Ekitike is. Yeah. I think Ekitike's wages are higher, and his starting fee was certainly higher. It's 78 million all in, and Gyokeres is 65 all in, I think. Yeah. So the financial package is, of course, higher. Gyokeres is also currently, right now, in my opinion, better. And specifically, what we need, as Ian Wright said, that fateful day against Liverpool when we lost 2-0 at home, we need a killer. And Ekitike isn't a killer. Ekitike is an inconsistent finisher. He has an incredible finish in his locker, but he's a very inconsistent finisher by all accounts until this stage in his career. That could easily change. He's still young. But Arsenal's problem in recent years is that we've had an Ekitike type. Ekitike is not the same as Havertz, but we've had a guy who can come back into midfield, do this, go to left wing, Gabriel Jesus in some ways. Yeah. But we haven't had the killer. And the thing is, if we signed Ekitike, I think we would still have the woe of we're doing all this really nice stuff, but we're inconsistent at finishing. And I think the PSG game last season was a perfect example of a game that Ekitike would have thrived really well in. He'd have done all this link-up, done really nice, but we needed someone to stick the ball in the back of the net and not give Donnarumma a chance. And we didn't have that. And in the Champions League against Real Madrid, we were super clinical, and we benefit from 2 unbelievable free kicks. But Ekitike would have been another inconsistent finisher in a team of inconsistent and form-related finishers, whereas Gyokeres is more towards the Man City Haaland model, where you say we've had Gabriel Jesus, great for winning the league, but for winning the Champions League, you need a guy who doesn't bat an eyelid when he sees the pearly whites of the post. He just smashes the ball. So I'm not 100% in dismissal, because I think long-term Ekitike and Sesko would be better than Gyokeres, but we've got to remember what the aim is right now, which is major trophies. And I think this season, and I will flip the question to you, this season, the world ends after next season. An asteroid hits the Earth. So sorry to tell you this. But for one season, who do you think would have done a better job for us, Ekitike or Gyokeres? And you can still say Ekitike here.
Is it this season that we're talking about?
Yeah.
Probably Gyokeres. It's weird. I'm in a weird headspace with Liverpool signing Ekitike and United signing Šeško, right? Because I think there's a great chance that United fucks it up with Šeško, and they don't develop him properly as a player, and they put him under too much pressure immediately, yada yada. But there is still a chance that this guy develops into a great striker anyway, in spite of United. Yeah. And with Ekitike, odds are pretty high at this point that he's going to be learning under the best striker in the Premier League throughout this season, and the next and the next.
That's another hot take, by the way.
What?
The best striker in the Premier League. I don't agree.
Isak? You think Haaland's better?
I still think Haaland's better.
Yeah. He's probably
and I say that through the bitterness of my teeth. No. No. Isak is definitely a better all-round striker. I just think people are forgetting that Haaland is so clinical, and by clinical I don't mean statistically outscoring his XG. I mean stick the ball in the box and Haaland will score for you. He will find that ball. He's like a honing missile to the ball. If you put the ball there, he'll get his foot to it. He won't try and head it. He'll get his foot to it and do an overhead kick or a flick. Haaland on a bad season scores 26 goals. So that's why we'll see, because Isak's non-penalty goals are still unbelievable, but I still edge Haaland.
I can see it either way. It
also depends what a team needs, by the way.
Yeah. I just think I think I would prefer to have Isak over Haaland in a team if I was building one from the ground up.
I agree with that.
I mean, the fact that our center back duo has been as successful against Haaland as it has been, I mean, I think that's a massive point of pride for me. So yeah. But kind of going back to Ekitike, I just think I think Gyokeres will finish with more goal contributions this season than Ekitike does, probably by a country mile. I mean, I think Gyokeres gets 25 goals and assists this season.
That's low.
That's low.
Wait till you hear my next take.
Well, I'm hedging it. Well, I guess I would agree. I would prefer to have Gyokeres over Ekitike this season, but I just worry that Liverpool have really signed, I don't want to say the next Henry, but like the next diet baby Henry. You know what I mean?
Thierry Henry.
Yeah. The next Henry, the next Thierry Henry. Apologies to Theo Walcott.
And the current Henry.
Yeah.
Isak, and then his successor is... It's ridiculous. And just going back to Arsenal quickly, I suppose something interesting is, had we signed Ekitike and him not succeeded, the way Arsenal operate as a club, we'd have been kind of stuck with him. Yeah. Whereas with Gyokeres, it's a little bit easier to move on because the fee is less substantial. We'd probably be able to sell him for 40 million in a season without batting an eyelid. And then if a striker, there's no strikers in the world, but if a big striker came up on the market, it'd be easier to react. Whereas if you have Ekitike, and I think this was kind of part of the Sesko thinking, if these guys flopped, then we're a bit screwed because that's taken it. We can't sell, basically.
And the thing is, like, I think the chance of them flopping is higher than people give it credit for. It'll probably work.
Higher than Gyokeres as well, you would argue.
Yeah. Well, because Gyokeres, at the end of the day, if we played the exact same way that we've played the last 3 seasons, Gyokeres just has to stand on the penalty spot, and he'll smash in 15 goals a season. Whereas, I think Ekitike kind of has some consistency to achieve in the Premier League, which is much easier said than done. And Isak, injury history, I would hate to be that guy playing against Newcastle, especially with all the ruckus that he's made. I think Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton will try to hurt him. So best of luck, Alex. No, I'm serious. Like this guy's refusing to play for Newcastle, and you think that if you play these guys again, they're not going to try to break your legs. If I'm Arne Slot, I am not starting Isak against Newcastle anytime that they play him.
Do you know what I'm hoping? They play us. I think it's on the 30th of August. I hope this drags out a little bit. 31st of August. I hope this drags out a little bit. So by the time we play them, he hasn't had enough training and doesn't play, because it'd be nice not to play Liverpool with him in the team. Also, just a quick thing. You said 15 goals for Gyokeres. Would you be happy with 15 goals? I think 15 goals would be a disappointing season.
15 goals,
especially if he takes penalties.
In all competitions?
No, in the Premier League. I think 15 points in the Premier League would be disappointing for Gyokeres if he's our starting striker.
If he's taking all the penalties, I'd want at least 18.
That is very low expectations.
Yeah, I know.
Havertz got 13 goals for us in his season where he played centre mid for the first half and then up front for the second half. He got 13 goals, 7 assists. Have we finished with the Ekatike take? And I will tell you my next take.
Yeah, we're done. Yeah.
Okay, my second take is I'm not sure if I think this is one of the throw that take out there, and if it lands, I'll call myself a genius. I think that Gyokeres will get 10 plus assists in the Premier League this season. I think he will. I don't think he will be creative per se, but I think the way he plays will lead to a lot of assists, and his goal output will be reduced from Sporting naturally, but I think he'll get sneakily 10 assists, Ollie Watkins style, let's say.
By assists, do you mean like Saka or someone else kind of sweeping in the rebound, or do you genuinely mean like he creates the goal?
I mean he creates the goal, but I will extend that by saying all winning penalties.
Okay.
So I'm not going to consider rebounds. I think they're called hockey assists. But I will consider penalties and direct passes to goals. I think he'll get 10. And that instinct came from watching the Bilbao game, where he often finds himself, he gets slipped in, finds himself attacking the box from the side. And if he is able to make the right pass, then there are a lot of chances for goals. And with the gravity that he brings, I love this expression in football, gravity. I'm sure it pisses people off. But with the gravity he has that pulls players towards him, if he's able to make the right flick on, there's a lot of space in and around him because players are so focused on him. So for those reasons, I think he will quietly sneak 10 assists by the end of the season.
I think as our roster stands currently, I would disagree. But if we were to go out and get an Eza or a Rodrigo or a Leao, which Leao would be so fun. But if we go out and get any of those players, then I think I would agree. And it's just because I'm with you in terms of how he drifts out to the left and he pulls players toward him, and I also noticed that he passes sometimes when I really do expect him to shoot, which I thought was interesting because there are a few times in his preseason matches where he'd get the ball and I thought he was just going to pull the trigger, and then he'd kind of try to lay it off for like Martinelli or Saka or something. But as things stand, I just don't think the players are around him on the left side of the pitch to be able to turn those passes into goals. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be him and, Martinelli, Trossard, maybe Calafiori factors in a little bit, maybe Rice. I don't see that adding up to 10 goals only in the league. But again,
how many do you think he'd get in the league, just out of interest?
7 or 8.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll take 7 or 8. 7 or 8 is still an impressive return, let's say, for a centre forward. What I also do think this massively hinges on is the minutes he gets, because the problem is he could very easily, let's say, have 10 goals and assists. 10 assists per 90. 10 assists per 90 would be a lot of assists.
Amazing.
He could be on the trajectory of 10 assists throughout the season, but he might get subbed off at 60 minutes every game to preserve his legs and have it subbed on. So it is possible, even in my scenario, he ends on 6 or 7 by virtue of him playing 3,000 minutes as opposed to however many you play if you play every single game.
I think he'll get to 3,000 minutes.
3,000 minutes is actually quite a lot. I realise 3,000 minutes is what 33 games or something.
Just about, yeah. 33.
Yeah, just it's actually over 33 games. So 3,000. I'm not convinced. I think it will get just about in and around 3,000 minutes in the league.
Oh yeah, not in the league. Yeah.
Sorry. That's what I mean. But last season he got 7 assists in the league, and the season before he got 10 assists in the league. So he is very capable. But I do very much see your point about the players to convert his chances. But when he's on 5 assists by game week 10, I'll be saying, hey, look.
I'll message you and I'll tell you that you probably were right. Okay. I don't think people are going to like this next take from me, but I think Miles Lewis-Skelly is going to lose his starting position this season.
This was going to be my take. I nearly made this exact same take.
I just think the good vibes are on Calafiori's side right now. And look, it's Calafiori, so he might get injured in 3 weeks. Knock on wood, he doesn't. But that might happen, and Lewis-Skelly is back in the fold. I just think that the way that we're playing right now, we really do seem to be giving Calafiori a special role in it, where he's allowed to roam a little bit, show up where he thinks he's needed. I saw someone kind of describe him as the low block buster for us, and I do think there is some truth to that, where he's going to be moving around and people aren't going to know what to do with him defensively, right? And he's going to open things up, and also he just has, I think, world-class quality on the ball. He can do some amazing things. So I think kind of with the players that we've brought in, with the directness we are trying to play with, I just don't think that suits Lewis-Skelly at this time. And I just think also, with direct, when you're playing direct, you have to be, that means you have to play quickly, right?
Yep.
And Lewis-Skelly, even though he's an amazing carrier with the ball, is not a guy who lends himself to fast play, right? This is a guy who gets the ball, earns a lot of fouls. He's also not a great passer yet, in my mind. Don't get me wrong, he's pulled out some amazing line breakers, over the last season. But I just kind of noticed over the course of this preseason, he was, getting a few of those wrong in midfield. And we're talking about sideways passes as well. So he's not a string puller yet, is what I'm saying. So I think kind of those two things combined, the pace we want to play with, the directness, but also kind of the quality that we need on the ball now, I think he's going to end up taking a backseat to Calafiori.
So there's a few things to say to this. Firstly, as I'm sure we both agree, this is no slight on Miles Lewis-Skelly.
Absolutely not. No.
At 18 years old, he was way ahead of where he was supposed to be. He is still incredibly valuable to that left-back role, and what an amazing situation it is to even be having this conversation, that we have so many options for fullback, especially our options at fullback. Both sides are incredibly valuable for us. I think importantly, this is very situational. So in games like Real Madrid, Lewis-Skelly to me is still more important, because in games where teams have a disorganized press or will press us high, I'll say that as well, I think Lewis-Skelly is super valuable because he can break the lines and drive into the space. But in low blocks, and especially when Zubimendi is playing in midfield, it kind of lessens the importance of Lewis-Skelly's progression. The other thing that's happened this season with Zubimendi coming in, Rice's best position is deeper. Rice drops deeper. That left defensive midfield role is where Lewis-Skelly likes to operate. So if you've got Rice in that role, then Lewis-Skelly has to operate wider. In wide positions, that's not where Lewis-Skelly thrives at his best. So it makes more sense to have Calafiori, who is also, as you mentioned, an incredibly good instinctual footballer who will play first time and is very unpredictable. He can go in so many different directions, which is what you need in those games. So I fully agree. And I tweeted this after the Bilbao game. I said, it's situational, but in many games I would prefer Calafiori. And to wrap up this point, unless you have more to add, which you may, I think Lewis-Skelly very soon will... not yet, but I think his future is in midfield, and I think we're seeing that accelerated by what will happen this season. And I think next season we will target an overlapping left back, a proper overlapping left back. I do hope so anyway, because it's been well overdue. But if you look at the different strings we have to our bow, that is the most glaring gap currently in our skill set, is an overlapping left back.
Yeah. No, I agree with that point as well. And I think kind of organically we're gonna sell Marino next summer anyway.
Yeah.
But that will leave a spot open at left 8 for Lewis Skelly to take over. And yeah, again, this, like you said, this isn't a slight against Lewis Skelly. I think he's still an excellent player. And I would still rather play him than Calafiori against like Liverpool and City and Real Madrid, because that's when you need your lockdown defenders. If we're losing against those teams, yeah, maybe that's a Calafiori game. But all in all, like you said, I just think his skill set's better suited towards, a little bit higher up the pitch, and we'll see that manifest over the course of the season.
Yes. So I'll go on to my last take. I was just trying to. I wasn't being rude on my phone. I was just trying to calculate something for my final take. This is a little bit off topic.
Okay.
This is. I don't know why. This is just something that came into my head before the show. My final take is that I think Alexandre Lacazette was underrated during his time at Arsenal, and I think he was disrespected unnecessarily. I understand the frustration he brought to us, but I think people talk about the season he got Player of the Season, which I think was 18-19. And speak very loudly about how that was undeserved and Aubameyang should have won it. And I believe Lacazette got something like 13 goals and 9 assists in the league that season. Or no, let's say something like 14 goals and 9 assists. I did check earlier, I've forgotten what I said. But when we were there that season, also bearing in mind he didn't take penalties. Aubameyang scored 5 penalties in the league that season and scored 24, I believe. If Lacazette took penalties, they'd have been on 19 each, and it would have been a very, very different story. So a wider point I have is non-penalty takers often get overlooked and disrespected, and penalty takers often get overcredited for stuff. But my main take is that Lacazette was underrated during his heyday at Arsenal. Things petered out and it was right to go, but during his heyday he was underrated and a pretty good player for us.
I guess my okay, because I don't think that's wrong per se. Who do you prefer in their prime, Giroud or Lacazette?
That is a really hard question. I think I have to say Giroud.
Yeah.
I think I have to say Giroud.
So this is where I'm struggling, because I would agree, and I would go so far as to say that Lacazette was a bit of a downgrade on Giroud. And that's mostly, I think Lacazette's the better finisher, but I think this is mostly down to the fact that Giroud, if nothing else, was the ultimate focal point in terms of our play. Like, I used to call him an offensive fulcrum for our team. That being said, yeah, I do think Lacazette has gotten to the point where he's become drastically underrated.
I think he's memed as certain, not to the level of Sonogo, but I think he's put in a category of players where he doesn't deserve to be.
Yeah.
I often talk with my brother, or brothers specifically, about kind of, if you want to view players objectively, you can talk about them as FIFA ratings. Lacazette, during his prime at Arsenal, was like an 85, 86 rated player at FIFA, and I think actually was, that puts you up, not at the top tier of the Premier League, but that puts you up with some very, very respectable players. So with that like objective rating system in mind, he was very good. Now people speak back on him like he was. If you asked someone, they would tell you Nacho Monreal was better for Arsenal than Lacazette. That is not true.
No.
That is not true. People love. Also, where has Nacho Monreal revisionism come from? Complete side note.
He was fine. He wasn't awful. You know, it's because Nacho. You know what it is for both these guys. It's because Nacho Monreal succeeded Andre Santos, basically.
Yeah.
Right, and so Andre Santos, he had an okay start and then immediately became just the most disastrous player I'd seen at Arsenal in a very long time. And then Nacho Monreal came in and was competent, and because of that juxtaposition, people were acting like he was fucking Cafu.
People were well, yeah, but a lot of the revisionism has come a long time after. People at the time acknowledged he was a very average defender. A lot of people wanted Gibbs to start over him, but 10 years later, people are like, Nacho Monreal was underrated. He was as good as Ben White. He was an 8 out of 10 every day. I'm like, what are you talking about? And also, I go further. I think Ben White is better than Bakary Sagna.
Yes.
People compare. I've seen people compare those teams to the modern team, and people will be like, Sagna was better than Ben White. He wasn't. People have fond memories, but you're forgetting when Arsenal lost 6-0 to Chelsea, 8-2 to Man U, and the rest, 6-0 to City, or I want to say, or 6-1 to City. There were many bad times that people conveniently forget who want to do revisionism on the past times and want to slander Arteta and say things were better under Wenger. I promise you they were not better under Wenger. You did not enjoy going home after Wenger's 2000th game, I think it was, where we lost.
The 6-0 against Chelsea?
Yeah, it was 1,000th?
1,000th, yeah.
1,000th. You were not happy after that, and you were miserable for a long time. Under Arteta, we have never felt that.
What year was that game again? The 6-0 against Chelsea?
Who was Chelsea's manager? I want to say like 2014-15. March 2014, 13-14.
No, dude, that was terrible for me because and the 8-2 I remember was in 2011 as well. Yeah, I was in college for those games. Do you know how much it sucks walking around a college campus in an Arsenal jersey within 2 weeks of either of those results? Nightmare.
Yeah.
So like, Monreal was a solid 7 out of 10 per week guy. Sagna, I think also the same. The thing about Sagna that I don't think it's talked about enough is that he was an excellent defender, but he didn't offer anything going forward.
Yeah.
At all. Ben White, maybe you take a step back as a defender, but I think he's just so amazing in the final third. Well, not so amazing, but like he's extremely serviceable. And so, yeah, going back to Lacazette, I just think the problem is, and the reason why he doesn't have the same PR as a lot of those guys is, he got signed, and then 6 months later, we acquired Aubameyang.
Yeah.
And while I think the thinking at that time was, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is on the market, and he's very good. Why don't we get him alongside Lacazette? I think a lot of people have taken that as kind of a condemnation of Lacazette's quality, and that's just not really the case. And so, while his last couple seasons at Arsenal were extremely disappointing, I would say that we haven't had many strikers at Arsenal in its history that were better. That were better than Lacazette, right? Like, the easy ones: Henry, Bergkamp, Van Persie. Ian Wright, Aubameyang. Do you want to add Adebayor in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, Adebayor is better.
To be fair, Arsenal had some good strikers. Anelka, Wiltord, Cliff Baston going back to 1930.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's probably 20 strikers or 20 forwards that we've had who are better than Lacazette.
I'm not sure I'd go that many. Just strikers.
20 at most. I mean, like, I think it's safe to say...
I'd say between 10 and 15.
10 and 15, yeah. That's not that many.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, so...
I don't know. I just feel... I remember, was it 18-19 season? I was first year uni, and he just that goal against Liverpool, the goal against Cardiff, the goal against Leicester on his debut season before. To be fair,
Oh yeah.
I believe he scored against Chelsea. He scored in the North London derby. The guy, specifically during his pomp, during his best season, he was a very decent footballer. So, just easy on the Lacazette. Easy on the Lacazette hate. That's all I want to say to the people of the world.
Yeah, I think actually that's a really good take. My last take
I'm so scared.
for the first annual Take Purge, I wanted to say something wild, and I think a lot of people will consider this something wild. But what I will say is, and this might actually be something that I really do believe, Arsenal do not have a big selling problem. Arsenal have an inventory problem, right? So I feel like people go very big on this idea that we don't know how to offload players. And to an extent, that's understandable, right? But I think the main problem is that we don't have players that we want to sell for the most part.
Yeah.
And so, in recent years, we've sold Smith Rowe. We sold Smith Rowe for 35 million. We've sold Nketiah for 30 million. We sold Willock for, I think, 35 million. Who else? There's one more guy that I'm forgetting.
Oxlade-Chamberlain?
Oxlade-Chamberlain, 35 million. Now,
Did you say Iwobi?
oh yeah, Iwobi. Wasn't Iwobi close to 40 or
34 million, I think.
34? Yeah. So like we've done okay, and of course this is after Fabregas and Nasri and players like that. But I think it's important to look at those guys because Fabregas and Nasri and Van Persie went for big sums, and that's because those are players that we didn't want to sell. And so you look to now, and people are clamoring over us not selling Zinchenko and Vieira and Kivior and these other guys. They're good players. They're not players that clubs are lining up for at the very start of a transfer window. And so, I just think it's really hard to drum up any significant leverage when you are selling a guy who you've made very clear is not going to play that many minutes for you and is viewed as a backup's backup.
I want to say something on this.
Yeah.
Because I agree, but other clubs are able to.
Yes.
Chelsea just sold Dewsbury Hall to Everton for 30 plus million, for 34 million, I think. It was abundantly clear that he had no space in that Chelsea team. Chelsea almost sold Sterling to Fulham. I don't know whether that's going to go ahead. Man U froze Rashford out, froze Garnacho out. These guys are potentially going to new clubs. So I agree with your sentiment, but I think we already do quite... Like, Zinchenko has been playing minutes in pre-season, which is more than he should be. Lokonga is the only person who we have genuinely frozen out and said, go find a new club. You're not even going to play any minutes. Everyone else has been... We've pretended that we need them.
That's fair, but are we signifying that they're going to be significant players for us this season? I mean, maybe Kivior, but Kivior hasn't played a lot of preseason minutes.
But who are you fooling? How would you fool to people that Zinchenko is going to be a big member of your team?
I mean, that's
do you know what I mean?
That's kind of my point, though. Like, you can't. You could stick them in the team if you want to, right? And you can give them, a few minutes here, a few minutes there. But at the end of the day, if Fulham, say, hey, we're interested in Zinchenko, and you say we want £30 million for him, they'll be like, we know he's not that valuable to you.
So your point is not that we persuade people persuade other teams that they are a big part of our team, that we've got to adjust our expectations knowing that these are unwanted players.
Yeah, my point is that it's an extremely uphill battle trying to offload these sorts of players. And look, I don't know how. I think with Chelsea, you kind of hinted at this earlier. Chelsea buy a bunch of players who could play for top four clubs. So even if they're not getting that many minutes, there's still kind of an acknowledged quality there, where if some team comes knocking, it's like, okay, well, you're trying to sign a guy who would start for your team. Whereas,
it's very hard to know how good a Reece Nelson is in this world, how good a Lokonga is in this world, because these guys haven't really played much. And like, for example, Reece Nelson is quite a unique situation because when he played for Fulham, he was really good. Yeah. He just got injured. Lokonga's had some loan spells and has been fine. Extending your point, a fundamental issue that we do have is that we've been messed around for so long that this issue we have with selling, people will directly blame Berta. It goes so much deeper than Berta. There is an issue in selling culture at Arsenal where players know that, for example, Lokonga knows that he will just have a comfy season and that he will be fine. We need to make it clear that, like, tell Lokonga, you won't get to train with the first team. You'll be frozen out. You'll train with the youth team, and then all of a sudden, him and his agent will go, "Oh, do you know what? Shall we actually push for a move?" Right now, he's going, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm in no rush. Let me pick up my wages. Let me train with the first team boys at Arsenal. This is great." So, the fundamental issue is players get so comfortable at Arsenal on high wages, and they have no incentive. Zinchenko is on 150,000 a week, living in London with his family. Why does he want to move to Turkey? Unless he's desperate to play football. Arsenal have given him no clear incentive. Chelsea with Kepa stuck two fingers at him and said, "Leave now, or we'll burn your house down." And all of a sudden he's gone. So, yeah, it's a much to join your take. It's absolutely not Berta's fault that we're struggling to sell players this summer. This is a systemic issue that's been going on for a long time. And I agree that we, and as a fan base, we do this as well, refuse to sell players that are part of the squad. Liverpool sold Luis Diaz. Arsenal fans would never dream of selling Luis Diaz. Yeah. Arsenal fans would never dream of selling a player who offered you that much the season before and helped you win the title. Liverpool sold him at peak market value. And look how they've replaced him. And I read a report that said Arsenal are reluctant to sell Martinelli because they think he's just had a poor season. And if he has a good season this season, he will be at higher market value next season. That doesn't make sense to me. That really doesn't make sense to me if we are signing a left winger.
You're relying on a hypothetical. Like, what happens if he has another poor season? Then
you're really in trouble. Then people go, hang on a minute. If this guy's not barely touching 10 goals and assists in the league in 30 games, I'll give you 30 mil, 40 million. Especially considering his wages. So I think this was the point of maximal opportunity to sell Martinelli.
And, I think back to the Ainsley Maitland-Niles situation.
Yep.
Where I think it was Wolves bid 20 million for him, and we didn't accept it because he just had like an interesting season for us, and then we held on to him. He insisted that he wanted to be a midfielder instead of this right back left back hybrid that Arteta was getting so much success out of him through, and he left for free a few years later because the bottom fell out for him. So if what I will say is Arsenal themselves don't have a selling problem. Like, they don't have a problem advertising or like pitching their players. The problem is they don't know when to let go, and they don't like letting go unless they have a guarantee of a big windfall. And that's just not how, that's not a reality that you can live in all the time.
I disagree.
Oh, okay.
No, I largely agree, but I still do think we have a selling problem.
Okay.
And I don't blame Berta for this, but I think both things are true. I think everything you said is true, but we also have a selling problem. And that selling problem is culturally because teams have taken the piss out of us for so long. We've had such a weak backbone that they know we can get to the last week of the window and we'll panic and we'll reduce the fee. I believe that will change under Berta, and I think his record at sales for Atletico was pretty good. But I do still think we have a selling problem as well as an inventory problem. So I half agree, but I don't think I can fully agree that we don't have a selling problem as the statement.
That's fair. Again, this is not a statement that I'm willing to die on.
We needed to disagree on something. So far, all the hot takes we've been pretty assimilating with.
We had all these hot takes that we agreed with. Yeah. Well, there you go. That's the first annual Take Purge in the books.
Breathe.
So now, from this point forward, anything I say, I am liable for. But yeah, how was that?
That was fun, man. That was fun. We can clip some of that up and put it on Twitter. See how it goes.
Piss everybody off.
We gotta. I'm gonna monitor how you clip it up. But yeah, it will be fun to see how the discussion goes.
Yeah.
I don't know what the followers of that kind of Gooner are like. Hopefully more welcoming than my Twitter followers, because I say my followers, they're usually Liverpool fans from somewhere further afield, but I get grilled for breathing these days, so hopefully
I like to think our little band of listeners are reasonable people, so we'll see whether that's the case down the line, but right now, you guys are the best. So, real quick before we get out of here, just give me a quick prediction. How do you think we're going to do at Old Trafford?
Good. I thought you were going to say, how do I think I'm going to do this season?
No, that's a big question.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we dominate. But United are very good at defending in a low block against big teams under Amorim. They have been the whole time. They drew against Liverpool last season. I think they drew against us, and I think they beat City or some iteration of those three.
I feel like they yeah.
So they're good in these situations. Don't get me wrong. They are a luxury low block team. Kind of, I've made this comparison before, but kind of similar to when Arteta first joined Arsenal. Whether they make the transition to being a good team in general, I don't believe they will, because Amorim is very firmly a three at the back coach, and I don't think you can win titles with three at the back or come top four. But that's a story for another day. So I think we will dominate, and they will frustrate us. And I think we will score in the 48th minute and the 81st minute and win 2-0.
2-0, okay. I think we will take the lead late in the first half, and then we're going to deal with some ridiculous refereeing decision because it's Old Trafford, and I've seen who's lined up there for the match. So they'll get awarded a really weird free kick, or they'll get a penalty or some sort, and they'll get back into the match through that. And I think Gyokeres will score late 70s, early 80s, give us the win. By the way, can I tell you what my biggest pet peeve is? When people do this. This is not. That's not the celebration.
The funniest. Someone did like this. There's some anyway.
It's very easy, guys. You just do this. But so I think that's how it's gonna go. But yeah,
I think 2-1 would probably be the safest bet. 2-1 to us. That is. But I'm gonna go 2-0 because I'm brave.
I'm liking that. I'm liking that optimism. All right. Well, on that note, James, thanks so much for being here, my friend.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
This is a lot of fun. Hope you can come back on soon. Yeah,
sure.
And
I will.
Are you still doing a few more Wednesday shows for the Canon?
The finale, the final Wednesday show, because the transfer window is drier than the Sahara. and the season's starting, so it just makes sense to kind of wrap up the transfer show. I will still be on the Cannon podcast, but the transfer show will be coming to a close, and I will finish as I started with the lovely George, which will be nice because that was my first ever hosting gig, and this will be my last hosting gig for now. I'm sure I'll be back someday hosting, but it'll be nice to come full circle because I was very much a novice when I first joined, and Mike, it is something you really like come into your own a little bit. It becomes so much more natural. It feels weird at first, and then you get into flow state. So it's been enjoyable, and I look forward to coming on this show again and spending too much time hogging the mic.
We'll have you on again soon for sure.
Thank
and you guys need to catch the last transfer I keep forgetting what it's called for the Cannon pod.
The roundup.
The roundup.
Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean I've tuned in like 4 or 5 times over the course of the summer, and I think you did great. So
thank you, man.
So make sure to catch that, and also check out James as a starting 11 finalist on the finale.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Keep your eyes peeled on my Twitter, because yes, lots to look forward to. So we will see.
All right. Well, so you can follow James at AFCJXMES on Twitter. You can follow me at Shamsdale. You can follow the pod at Not That Gooner, and you can check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Not That Kind of Gooner, and you can subscribe on YouTube at Not That Kind of Gooner. And also, what am I forgetting here? Oh, if you got any questions, if you got any suggestions for the pod, email us at notthatkindofgooner@gmail.com. And we will be back later this week with a season predictions episode. I'm going to ask the guys how many times Viktor Gyokeres does that celebration. And we might have a United writer come and join us and do a little preview of the Old Trafford game as well. But until then, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for being here with us. And we'll be back soon. So until then, take care. Get your mind out of the gunner. And bye. Bye.
Secret Gooner. All right, I'm a Gooner. Oh, I love you!
Bukayo Saka! It's Rice again!